Washington's Olympic Peninsula is full of the kinds of things you'd expect from a rainforest. Big trees, lush undergrowth, delightful creeks. But there's something else hidden away here, something no one had ever identified before in the western U.S. until Joe Rocchio found it one day in 2011.
Came out here one morning. As I made my way in, I was not expecting to find what I did at this place.
Joe is a Natural Heritage Program Manager for Washington's Department of Natural Resources. His job is basically to seek out and identify the state's natural wonders.
We always feel like we're on a little bit of a treasure hunt, and I felt like I found that chest of gold when I came out here.
What Joe found is called a raised bog, and the first indication that this is a different kind of place is that the peaty, mossy ground isn't just squishy. It actually moves in waves underfoot.
Some people think like it's like a waterbed. I think it's more like walking across pillows. So when you jump on it, the surface can undulate pretty far out from where I'm located. You can see the water moving.
But even that's not the strangest thing about this place. A raised bog is different than an ordinary bog because it sits higher than everything else around it.
The water levels over here are actually lower than they are at the top, which is counterintuitive.
The way it works is like this. Most bogs are like sinks or filled-in ponds, lush with grasses and plants and fed by streams or creeks. What Joe found seemed to defy gravity. Imagine a bubble holding water and earth together like an inflated bladder and sitting 9 feet higher than the surrounding landscape. And there are no streams feeding into it. Instead, a raised bog captures only rainwater and then drains that water down slowly out towards the shoreline.
And that's what makes Crowberry Bog so unusual. They weren't thought to exist here.
The entire bog is only 40 acres in size. It's surrounded by western hemlock and cedars, but the heart of the bog is treeless because decomposing moss and rainwater create an acidic soil that's tough on trees. It's an unusual combination of conditions that provides home to an equally unusual variety of specialized plants.
There's so much biodiversity that we just lump into the ground surface, or you can just stand from here and you see brown and red. And if you don't get on your hands and knees, you don't see the small little sundew that right now is hidden. There's all these little bugs crawling over the surface. There's just so much diversity that is at a micro scale. Some of it you can't even see with the hand lens. You need to put it under a microscope.
Crowberry Bog is filled with skunk cabbage and bog laurel, cranberry, and the bog's namesake, crowberry. There's even a type of moss called small capsule dung moss. It only grows in bogs like this and only on the poop of elk or deer.
And so this is, I think, the second or third location in the state where this moss has been documented. Everyone finds their own space. What is it about elk dung here that makes it very unique to this particular moss? I don't know, but it's very cool. The ecology is just amazing.
In this microscopic world at our feet, we saw battles underway between tiny insects and carnivorous plants called roundleaf sundew. And the spongy soil itself is almost all peat moss.
Peat mosses are the ecosystem engineers of bogs. They built this place.
It's remarkable that this area remains intact.
That's all peat moss.
Peat moss is often sold as a landscaping material, and many bogs like this were heavily mined in the past. And historically, it had other uses as well.
I came across a paper and it talked about a national effort to harvest peat mosses for World War I because sphagnum served as an incredible bandage. Sphagnum peat moss absorbs 20 times its weight in water. So it's very absorbent, plus it's very acidic, it's an antiseptic. The community would go out and collect, it looked like live sphagnum, put them in these big bundles and send them off to the Army for use in World War I.
At the far end of the bog, Joe spots another oddity. shore pines standing only about 4 to 6 feet tall.
You can see that most of these trees look relatively young and short, and they're actually quite old. It almost takes on like a bonsai-like form in some areas just because of the harsh growing conditions.
Some of these dwarf trees may be as old as the towering timber of nearby Olympic National Park.
We pulled out one of these trees at one point, 70 years old.
Crowberry Bog is now a state natural area, and Joe had a lot to do with that effort.
This place is near and dear to my heart. I was coming out so often that my kids started calling this Daddy's Bog. Dad, where are you going? I'm going to the bog. And they knew exactly which place I was talking about.
Public access is limited for now to educational visits by appointment to help ensure the bog's health, but also to preserve any unknown wonders still waiting to be discovered.
You know, I've spent 20 years doing this kind of work, and this place still surprised me. We really just have kind of a cursory understanding of what's here. But if we're protecting representative examples of all the different ecosystem types, then we hope by default we're providing some level of conservation to all of those species we have no idea even exist in these sites.
Great people just doing their thing in their own Northwesty way. We love bringing you stories like this. Support what you love. OPB.org/video.